following pitch that I have is for an animated Batman series, which would be a more adult-oriented series, and a much further attempt to differentiate itself from the 90s animated series, much in the way that the Jackie Chan animated Batman unfortunately failed to do. The basic premise of this series that I've had is off of two topics. Number one, this is kind of a carrying on that Captain Logan and Vince did on their topic of lack of serious animation in America, which, kind of the fact is that we don't, a lot of Americans don't really take serious animated shows well, which is why we don't see a lot of them in prime time, but Japan is flourished in them, and that's basically off of that. But also, I kind of had this idea from Wolverine and the X-Men about differentiating Batman from what came before. The idea with this is that, first off, I want to take and sort of turn Batman on its head by doing quite a few things. Number one, Bruce Wayne is not Batman in this series. Dick Grayson will be. And this will largely be inspired by the little bit of a run that he did on Batman and Robin, and also from a lot of the very well done stories that he's written over the last couple of years, introducing Damian and establishing sort of these sadistic motherfucking villains that we have, particularly in Dr. Hurt and the Black Glove. The tone of the series, which I want to catch, would want to be an HBO series, much in the same way that Spawn the animated series was, but I want to take and do a little more of the darker stories that don't really make it into animation, kind of in the way that besides those silly little cameos that a lot of the recent stuff has had on Brave and the Bold. The idea of this series is, besides them being able to say, to show sex and blood and say shit and fuck about every 5 seconds, is the fact that I want good stories told from Batman. I know we have The Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One coming out as animated movies, but they're still not going to be given the leniency that I think they should be. I'm wanting to pitch, well, first off, let me talk about the characters. I want to pitch Dick Grayson as Batman because, as much as I've enjoyed seeing Bruce, again, we need to kind of do something to catch the interest of longtime fans and perhaps even some new watchers that are of the 18 and over crowd. The first thing I want to do is establish Dick Grayson as Batman, and we're going to kind of play a little bit on Highlander a little bit too. The thing I want to do is that if I know it's not going to happen, but I'm picturing, say, like a 30-minute to 1 hour animated series, which would have Dick Grayson as Batman battling enemies in the present, but at the same time he's just coming into being Batman. And we're going to have him kind of taking flashbacks to when Batman was dealing with some villains that I want to include in here, such as Dr. Hurt and the Black Glove, Victor Zsasz, Professor Pig, and there's even a point in the flashbacks where I want to adapt Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on a Serious Earth, into animated form. And, say, kind of like we had this flashback to where Bruce is going into Arkham Asylum during that story, and then in the present day, Dick would happen to be dealing with Jeremiah Arkham as the new Black Mask. And we can incorporate him sort of taking over and still being able to have gangsters in this show as well as superpowered stuff. I also want to include Damian Wayans as Robin, and have Dick trying to protect him from maybe the influence that his grandfather and his mother would have on him. We'd have Alfred, we'd have the Birds of Prey, we'd have Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn there, Catwoman, the Birds of Prey, Tim Drake as the Red Robin, and we might even throw Jason Todd in there a little bit. The idea of this is that Basically, story-wise, Dick has just come into being Batman, and much in the way that Wolverine and the X-Men sort of had an unnecessary but still kind of interesting mystery surrounding the disappearance of Jean Grey and the Professor with the Phoenix explosion. Let's kind of build up in a mystery too of what happened to Bruce throughout the first season of the show, and eventually show how he fell under Darkseid's death blow in Final Crisis. I'd even throw a little bit of that in there, kind of acknowledging DC continuity, but keeping with the tone of the Batman family books, in that we kind of have more of a human level of characters taking place, which leads me to the title, which I'm lacking right now. I either have two ideas for a title for this. One comes from Deadpoolzilla, which is Gotham, or Batman, Gotham City Guardians. Or the other one, which I'm kind of a little more inspired on from the Arkham Asylum story, is Gotham, a serious city on a serious earth. Sort of Nolanizing, for the most part, kind of taking a pun on Nolan's name, and just Nolanizing Batman a little bit to focus more on his human enemies and away a little bit more from his more well-known rogues. Like I said, I wanted to give some proper showing off to Victor Zsasz. I would like to bring Hush back into this, and maybe we can even adapt the Paul Dini's awesome story of the Heart of Hush into this as well. And sort of build back into just what the Batman animated series was for the first 3 seasons in the 90s, and sort of having this as a down-to-earth serious show. Some superpowers could come into this, but they won't be a regular part of the series. Excuse me. And kind of the idea I'm wanting to do, because I'm serious about writing this as well, and just throwing it out there and see for the hell of it if somebody out there might like it or not. Kind of the idea that I want to do is, at the same time we have flashbacks, we could even adapt the return of Bruce Wayne and sort of have him do a bit of a supernatural return into this if it does well enough for one season. If that worked like that. And have sort of the art drawn in the style of Jim Lee's story of Hush with Jeff Loeb, which I think is probably the best artwork that I've seen for Batman. While I do like the darker tone of, say, Batman Year One perhaps will make a good art style, I don't want it becoming like Spawn, where about 90% of everything is in shadows. Sort of take the animation back to the 90s feel of the way the Spawn comics were drawn, where you have enough light and just enough shadow cast on everything, but you could still have a gritty, dark show take place at the same time. And I would also like to have Oracle in her as a reoccurring character as well. Supernatural wise, I would like to throw Ra's al Ghul in here. Certainly adapting Batman and Son into part of the story throughout the series would be awesome. And just, I don't know, just have a really good adult-oriented Batman besides Tim Burton's first movie, which, that didn't really follow the comics, but it's about as close to an R-rated Batman as you're going to get. Even though it is rated R, it's really as close to sort of the gritty story that you're going to get with Batman. But that's pretty much my pitch for these series. Just sort of having Dick deal with villains in the present, sort of having him deal with and sort of having him go through a thing to where, am I trying to be too much like Bruce or whatnot, and just, have him step out as his own character. I mean, he's done terrific with that with his time in the Outsiders and the Teen Titans and all that, but really have him step up and be a good solo character, much in the same way that they pitch the Bucky Cap now. But yeah, this is pretty much my pitch for the animated series. I'd like to know what any Batman fans out there in particular would think about this, and even if the feedback is negative, I just don't want no trolling on my channel, but just get some positive feedback or some critical stuff on this, because I'm really inspired to want to, kind of go with this a little more and seriously write out a series. I just want to know what people would think about that. So, leave your comments. You know the routine. Any feedback in general would just be appreciated for this.